It's time to turn these to this in another award-winning episode from Moto-Resto LLC. Seriously? Who writes this shit? Okay, hey, Tom, Moto-Resto LLC, Braden, Florida. With the exception of putting a couple of these little clamps on and things like that, this rack is done. This was a difficult one. Putting it back together is really not that hard. Like I said, I've done one before only, but if you take a lot of pictures, you make some notes. It's really not too terrible to slide it all back in and put the cross brackets in the right place and so forth. This is all new fuel line, and I think I mentioned earlier that I'm just leaving the vacuum line because it's actually in pretty good shape. Alright, so here's the problem that I had. When I put it all back together, I turn it over and I do a pressure test on the fuel system. Test the float seats and the float valves and the integrity of the entire fuel, the fuel rails, if you will, and of course the T's and so forth. And I had a very minute leak down. It would hold at about 2.5 psi, but any higher than that, it would slightly leak down. Now, that's not terribly a deal breaker in most cases, like, oh my God, I got to take everything apart. What I do in that case is I run some actual fuel through it from my auxiliary can, and so when I did that, unfortunately, number 3, I think it's that one. Nope, I have it turned around. See, I have it marked right there. Number 3 was dribbling out. So that means one of the float seats or the valves, or the float valve, I should say, in that carburetor is a problem. All the other 5 were fine. So I drain all the fuel out, of course, and then I, take the number 3 float bowl off. And the seat, I didn't have to touch that seat. It was in really good shape, so I didn't, and that's fine. But the problem was actually the float valve itself. And I'm going to try to zoom up on it with a magnifying glass and show you what I mean. It doesn't look terrible, but apparently there's just enough of a line, kind of see it right there, an impression really, in the rubber of the tip that caused it to leak a little bit. Now that said, the other 5, like I said, appear to be good. I did not replace any of these straight off the bat, when I rebuilt them, because they are insanely expensive for the OEM. I did a simple or cursory look online for aftermarket float valves, carb rebuild kits, that sort of thing for the Valkyrie, and I didn't really get a good hit, cross section on eBay or whatever. I've checked there. Just generally use the Google. Try to find some. Then again, I didn't really drill down too far either. But be it as that may, if you read Red Eye Technical's information and other stuff that I've seen on this particular set of carbs on a Valkyrie, the float valves, or I should say float needles, generally last. They generally do not need to be replaced. That's why he doesn't include them in the kit. And that was the case on the last one I did a few years ago too. It was perfectly fine just reusing the ones that were in there. But again, as you have already seen, these carbs are in really bad shape. So once I changed out number 3, and and I had one. Let me show you what fit exactly. This is an aftermarket kit for a Honda ATV. I think I got it because I work on some 350s, the Ranchers and so forth. And the last one I did, I just ordered 2 of them. I looked at this kit, the float needle that was in it, and the son of a gun is exactly the same as the one in the valve. I got lucky with that, and I'm going to live with it because the pressure test afterwards was much better. I would say it was 99%. And then I ran fuel through it again. I let it sit for about 10 minutes with fuel pressure just from the can on it, and it did not overflow every carb, so I'm calling it good. Now the other thing to keep in mind is that this is not an open fuel delivery system. This is a vacuum actuated system, and I have a brand new OEM fuel cock going on that tank. So the only time fuel is going to be flowing to this anyway under normal conditions is when the engine's running, or you turn the fuel cock to PRI, which stands for prime. We'll look at that another time. And that is essentially to prime up your carbs. If you had, set your motorcycle away for the winter and you drained all the carbs, and then you come back in the spring, you want to ride it, it'll take a while for the fuel to come through just based on the vacuum coming through off of the, I forgot which one of these intakes provides that pulse for it to deliver fuel to the carbs. So you turn it on PRI or prime, and the next thing you know, It fills up the carbs. You just can't forget to leave it there. Then you turn it back to on. There is really no off. It's automatically off. And then it's good to go. So would it have worked with number 3 oozing a little bit? Possibly. But I don't work that way. I want to be as close to 100% as possible. So as long as my tests say that it's good, I'm confident to put them back in the bike. So no, they're not going right back on now. If that's what you're asking yourself. Because I got a couple other things I want to do. I got that new borescope that I mentioned, I think, last video. So let's go ahead and unbox that, fire it up, and we're going to do some checking. The first thing we're going to check is the fuel tank to make sure that don't have a lot of crud down the bottom of it. If you watch, what was it, part 2? I don't remember, part 1, where I did the fuel tank. He wants his toy or something. You got to wait, buddy. His toy was under my concourse, and he doesn't like reaching under things. I don't know why he's weird. So anyway, where was I? We're going to check the bottom of that tank with the borescope to make sure there's no bunch of crud. There's not a bunch of crud laying up in there still. I have done tanks before, and they look perfectly clean, and did even like 2 applications of the OSFO and flushed it out. There he goes again. See what he's got. What? Where is it? Where'd you put it? Dog. It's right here. Get it. Been raining here, so he's been penned up here. But anyway, let's get back to it. Dang it. Distractions, distractions. Like I said, we're going to go to the tank here. Let's fire the borescope up first. Now, after we take a look at that, I'm going to pull the plugs out, and I'm going to look down each one of the cylinders with the borescope, or at least plug holes into the combustion chamber, and see if there's any rust or anything. Again, I have not cranked this over, and I don't plan on doing that until I inspect it, and then blast some fogging oil in, and then either I'll bump it over, or if I can jack this up with one of my lift jacks, I might just get it up in the air enough to put it in 5th gear and then spin the rear tire around, which will usually overcome, there's no compression with these plugs out anyway. It'll overcome the mechanical friction and so forth to actually start to move the motor around. One thing you don't want to do when something's sitting for a long, long time is just start hitting the starter, cranking it over. And that's the worst thing you can do. So we're going to take this slow and steady and step by step so we don't induce any major failures. One additional quick thing about these carbs, though, I forgot to mention it before. I mentioned the linkage, which was okay. These linkages actually have tiny bearings in them. The actual end of the linkages have little tiny bearings. And the kit comes with new bearings. There's no reason not to change them out. And all the little spacers and stuff, and he gives you the... It's pretty neat how he does it. He gives you the actual, order of how everything goes together. And I really like his stuff. So I put the new bearings in, just lube them up with a little bit of 3-in-1, some light oil. And as opposed to before, we have good, even operation, smooth of both sides, 135, 246. And so we are good. So I just wanted to cover that. I forgot to mention it. The little bearings look like that. It's kind of neat. I mean, they are tiny. So he gives you a little setup to drive them out and put them back in too. So it's really cool. Good, really comprehensive kit. So here's that boring scope. Let's see. It says pull. Oh, how nice. This had really good reviews on Amazon. On the Amazonian. You zoom me out a little bit more. There we go. Really good reviews. So let's give it a shot and take a look. Never had one of these before, as I said earlier, about 18 times. Do not know if it's charged. Don't know what that is. I'll have to look at the instructions. Time! That's an inside joke if you watch AVE on YouTube here. Now that's pretty neat. What these are is, I'm sure you guys are screaming at your screen right now that know about this stuff. One's a little tip attachment that has a magnet apparently on it because it's sticking to the other one here, I guess. I don't know. The other one's a little hook. So in other words, if you lose something, and you got to reach down in there and be able to see where it is, then that's what you use for it. I don't know if I trust that on there. You end up losing those inside a bore of a cylinder, through a spark plug hole into a cylinder, then yeah. So anyway, it's powered up. It works pretty good. The instructions are absolutely worthless, but it's a pretty simple device. If I can't figure it out, I might as well just turn in my honorary Radio Shack YouTube electrical engineer certificate. This has a memory card in it. I probably could just render the video and insert it into this video, but I don't know. All right, let's take a look. Yeah, if you look down in there, you see a little bit of rust still. Work my way down into the bowels. Not bad, not bad. That penetration right there is I think it's an overflow or something. Um, it could be, yeah, it's not the vent. It's got to be down low. It's got to be an overflow. Not sure where it attaches up here. Usually you see a spot for it, but it's up by the filler neck. So if it gets too full, it'll drain off. Hence the name. So we got a little bit down in there. Yeah, so you see there's some junk in here still. Actually quite a bit down in that corner. That's why I want to check this, because it doesn't always come up after one application. But it's actually pretty damn good. So what we're going to do is at a later time I will run another application of the OSFO. Probably don't need a lot in here. I may just get away with just a gallon and slosh it around for a while. Let it eat into that, because it's mostly toward the bottom anyway. I don't need to fill the whole thing up for that. And it's already diluted, so we'll do it that way. So, hi. Anyway, that's that. Let's check the cylinders now. I'm on the left bank. I think this is 5. I think it is. I mean the right bank. I'm on the right bank, rather. That does not look bad. See if we can go bend it a little bit. Give it a little bend. Not terrible when it's bent. Still works. Well, see a little bit there, right? That's what I worry about a little bit in these things, is the fact that it's got a little rust in the bores. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's done, but... And I haven't cranked this. And the PO, to my knowledge, has not cranked it either. The previous owner's son actually was the one I got it from. So that is a little bit around the top edge there. You can still see, well, that's nice. The honing looks good. See if I can go back around this way. Whoops. Well, that piston's up. That's not going to help. Okay, you see a little dribble in there because I used some PB Blaster just around the plug hole to take off the plugs, because they were really tight as well. Alright, so I'm not really seeing anything significant. What is this? 135, I think, front to back. So it'd be number 3. I can't really get at because that piston's up top dead center, but I'm just going to use the others as a reference, and if they're okay, then this one should be okay too. Let's check the other side. So this would be what, 246? 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? Eee. Yeah, see? That one doesn't look so good, does it? Focus! Alright, so I'm moving around. That was too close. That's what it was. Get a little bit of a scope. See? Yeah, that does not look terribly good, but what are you going to do, you know? Yeah. I would say we have a little bit of corrosion, and that's not good right there. You see that? That is not good. Check this first. I keep saying that in these jobs. This is before. Piston's up higher, so I've got to reset my technique. Well, I can get a pretty good look at it. That one looks pretty good, so 2 is definitely a little bit concerning. Oh boy. And there's the top of 6. Oh man. Now that's probably not rust, that's gunk from the fuel, because remember the carbs on this side were much worse, probably because it was sitting on the side stand, and the fuel cock probably failed, you know, because it was so bad, and it just flooded that carburetor out, and it just decided to, yeah, see this, oof, this does not look good. Alright, yucko. So what are we going to do about it? Well, this is what we're going to do. I do have the bike jacked up from under the massive part of the swing arm, and it is massive, and I know massive, trust me. And so I'm going to take my long air chuck here, one I used in the tank, and we're going to do pretty much what we did in the tank. Make sure there's nothing on the tip there. I only have it about 60 psi. You don't need a whole lot of pressure for this. And again, I'm going to put both of these inside there very carefully, and pull the trigger on both and let that blow this all around in there. Now if there's an intake valve open, it'll probably pop up one of these caps, but it's not going to be a big deal. Ready? Let's get a little bit more pressure than that. The objective here is to atomize that a little bit and blow it around. I don't want to put too much in. There we go. It'll come right back out at you, which is good, depending on which valve is open. And lube them up. Now this is good lube. I already blew out the openings, you know, before I pull the plugs out, so I don't have to worry about that. Take a look at the 4. See how it looks. So you should see looks better already. This was the bad one though. This is number 2, I think. It's the best we can do. So I did the other 3 off camera. One of the caps popped out on each side, so I figured that. There's got to be an intake valve open somewhere. We'll just put those back in. Okay, now so I said I had it jacked up. It's always good to get jacked up, just a tip and just for a second. So what we're going to do now is turn off the boring scope. See if we can wheel this around. As you can see, we got her jacked up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there is a 6 speed on this, or 6th gear rather. 6 speed. We're talking about a Schwinn. Remember those orange crates from the 70s for all you old guys out there? Now I'm going to see if we can move that motor. Yes. Alright, now I want to take a look at that number 3 on the other side. That, I think it was 3. Whatever that is. No, 3. I don't know. 5, I think. This middle one. And see if we can, that cylinder's down far enough so we can put some more fogging oil in, because of course that piston was right at the top. That's okay. She flew. I found it. It went to the next county. Go ahead and heave her over a couple of good rotations, hopefully. Luckily, the back brake is not dragging all that much. A little bit, but not bad. This is that really bad one, 2, I think it was. So, yeah, you know, some of that, and that's the bottom of the bore, so that's where all that shit was hiding, was laying. What I mean by bottom is the lower part, the lowest part of the bore, because again, it's a horizontally opposed engine, not the bottom of the stroke. Stroke! Yeah, I'm not too sad about this. No. Yeah, I like fogging oil for this. It's a good lubricant. It's designed for storage of engines, for long-term storage, so, you know, they anticipate that you're going to take an engine and put it away for a while and then fire it back up at a later time. I must have some schmoo on the end of this. Yeah, I do. So it's not like you can't crank the engine over with this crap in there. You certainly don't want to crank it over when there's a volume of it in there, because you don't want to hydrolock the thing. Do you see how shiny everything is? Because we got some of that fluid. And of course, again, that's the bottom. But you get an idea. That's not too terrible at all. Alright, so the next step is put the new batteria in it, and we'll crank it over with the key. Or the start. You know, the button. That thing on the right handlebar. I bought the new batteria for it the other day. And so, yeah, we got power, we got lights, no smoke's coming out. So since I turned it over, double, triple checked that it is actually in neutral, which it is. The neutral light's on, and I verified that by spinning the thing, because I put the damn back end back down. So I don't know if there's any interlocks on this. Here we go. That's all really we need. I'm going to go back and check that other one that was bad. Let's see what that looks like, because I bet you it's cleaned up nice. Okay, which one was it? It was this one, right? Yeah, that's the one that was nasty. Now, what you're seeing down there is a reflection off the side of the cylinder walls of the top of that piston. That's where you're seeing it. And the walls don't look bad now, so we'll call this okay for now, but the real proof of the pudding is going to be running it. Now, it's going to smoke like a mother when we first started up from all this in here, but I noticed that the fogging oil does not take as long to burn off as like motor oil, if you use like motor oil in here. Whoops, that's top of a piston. No wonder it won't go in. Yeah, so what's going to happen now is the essentially the remainder that's in there is going to start to evaporate out. I'm going to put the plugs back in and the yellow plugs to boot, just to keep everything from falling in there, anything from falling in there. And then move on from there, but I'm okay with it now. I was a little concerned about it when we first looked at that, but it's a Honda. It might smoke when it starts up and runs for a while, not only from the fogging oil, but maybe because the rings are a little bit stuck. It's possible. Unlikely, but it's possible. And that should clear up after it runs for a while. Happens a lot to old stuff that I work on. So let me get the, I don't want to put, I said I was going to put the plugs back in. I don't want to do that. I got a new set of plugs. So I'm just going to plug the holes with paper towels for now to get that sealed up so nothing falls in. Because like I said, I got to put new plugs in it anyway. And I'm going to probably spin it over once or twice more before I actually button it up to start it up. We got a while to go before then because, as you saw, I got to deal with the tank and do the other stuff regarding that. Clean it out all the way. But I don't need the tank to test run it, of course. I can run it off my auxiliary fuel source. This doesn't have a fuel pump, so it's Gravitia fed, so we're good with that. Take it from there. Try it. So, yeah, I think I'm going to end this one here because it's long enough, and you've already seen too many long videos on this probably already, but interesting, fun, using the boring scope and cranking it over, using a little oil, wrenching on some rusty shit, doing the carbs, finishing those up, I should say, showing you the details on that and corrective action. Well, I guess that's it. Like I said, let's end this now while the ending is good. Little bit of concern with those cylinders, a little bit of concern with a couple of the findings in the carbs, but I'm convinced we'll be able to get this to run, and it's not going to spew fuel all over the place. It'll probably run pretty good. With that, I just want to say thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like. That always helps. And we will seat you on the next video. Take care. Ride safe.